Welcome to An Hour to Give. I'm Sam Laprade. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we're going to learn all about the Ottawa Hospital, and I'm so excited to welcome to the show Dr. Barbara Vanderheiden. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Sam.
You've got some incredible research. I want to hear all about it. Let's start where it all kind of began. Give us a sense of how you came to the Ottawa Hospital.
So, long history. The short version is I trained in physiology and was doing a research environment training session in physiology called a postdoc. And I got an offer to come to Ottawa for an interview for a job they had available. And I thought it was a little premature, but I thought it'd be a good experience to go see Ottawa. I'd never been. And I got the position. And so that was part of the fledgling then cancer therapeutics program, and that was 33 years ago.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yep.
And you've had incredible impact. And of course, the Ottawa Hospital undertaking an incredible $500 million campaign, raised already $310 million in this city. It's so exciting. Research is such a big part of this as well. And you're a big part of this. So tell me a little bit about where you specialize in terms of your research.
Yeah, I think research is the only way that you're going to change the outcomes for the type of patients we deal with. So my area of focus and for my team is ovarian cancer. When I first started in the job 33 years ago, there was very little ovarian cancer research going on in Canada. And so I thought, okay, first of all, there needs to be more. And I wasn't a specialist at that time, but I quickly acquired the knowledge that was necessary to do really dedicated and focused research. And by staying focused on ovarian cancer, we've been able to, I think, learn a lot about the disease and be part of new ideas for getting better treatments to patients.
And thank you for that. I had a dear friend diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and unfortunately we lost her, but she was so incredibly inspired by the work that was being done, and she was given more time because of research. Because research today, treatment tomorrow, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing right now.
So the research we have going on right now falls into two categories. The first is, how do we prevent this, right? What do we understand about how the ovary becomes cancer? And is there anything in that process that we can use to stop it? The second area is, of course, once a patient is diagnosed, we can't stop it at that point. Can we find a way to slow it down, or can we find a way to eliminate it altogether? So those are the two areas of research that I have going. Of course, I would love to be able to come up with a strategy to prevent ovarian cancer. That's about the loftiest goal one could have in my field, because preventing cancer obviously is important. But the risk factors we know don't match, let's say, the timing of when ovarian cancer occurs. So let me give you one example.
Yeah.
So we know that ovulation is a well-established risk factor. So women who have ovulations that never stop until menopause are at the highest risk. But women who have taken oral contraceptives, which reduce the number of ovulations, or have become pregnant, so pregnancy, you don't ovulate while you're pregnant. So anyone who's had multiple pregnancies or oral contraceptive use reduces the number of ovulations and reduces the risk of developing ovarian cancer. The challenge is all of that happens before menopause, and yet the predominant, well, the largest proportion of women who develop ovarian cancer do so after menopause, median age about 63. So we can never figure out why all the action is going on in the ovary before menopause, but the cancers don't develop until afterwards. So the key was for us to find women who'd had their ovaries removed and look at young ovaries versus after menopause ovaries and see if we could see what did the premenopausal ovaries do that left a mark or something residual in the postmenopausal ovaries that would put them at higher risk of developing ovarian cancer.
Okay, that's fascinating.
And we found something.
Okay, so tell me.
So the older ovaries become fibrotic. With age, ovaries become fibrotic. Now, fibrosis happens in liver and lungs, and if you have a scar, that is a form of fibrosis, and it normally goes away. Some forms of fibrosis don't clear as readily, and so if you have lung fibrosis, you're at higher risk of lung cancer, and likewise for liver. But nobody had ever looked at the fibrosis in the ovary as a risk factor for ovarian cancer, but it's certainly there.
Okay, so I will scream it from any mountaintop that I'm given. that the world-class research that's being done in Ottawa, 1 million people, right? I mean, I think people think about research into maybe ovarian cancer or other kind of cancers. They think it's taking place in other parts of the world. It's right here in this city.
Absolutely.
So talk to me about you and your team. Like, I'm excited about this research. So you and your team must be ecstatic.
Yeah. Oh, very, very. And the student who made that observation has his now PhD, obviously, on that finding. But he also made the discovery that one patient who was 63 years old, postmenopausal, had young-looking ovaries. And I went back and I said, no, do your calculations over again. You've clearly got the wrong age. And he came back and he said, no, but she is on metformin, which is a drug that most diabetics take. And so it took a lot of effort to get more ovaries from women who are on metformin, who are postmenopausal, and darned if the trend didn't hold true, in that the ones taking metformin don't have ovarian aging in the same way that normal or women without metformin do. And this was remarkable because this actually would suggest that maybe there's a drug already out there that might reduce the transition into an ovary that has higher risk of developing ovarian cancer. So that's our observation. That's like everyone jumped on the bandwagon. There are lots of people now looking at ovaries and fibrosis, ovarian cancer and fibrosis, but it was made in Ottawa observation by my PhD student.
Okay, that's fantastic. So, so give me a sense. I would think as a young scientist, you could have studied anything. Why ovarian cancer?
Research, because I love puzzles. I'm a very curious-minded individual, love to solve puzzles. Why ovarian? My training was in reproductive biology, female fertility, and particularly function of the ovary. When my lab moved from the university to the new cancer center at that point, 1995, we had a new cancer center, and they moved the research group there, and all of a sudden we were walking to work past all the patients who were waiting for their treatments. And by the time I got to my lab on the 3rd floor, it hit me every single day, I need to do something for them. Suddenly, fertility was not as much of an issue as all those patients downstairs who were waiting for treatments and needed better treatments. Since I knew the ovary, ovarian cancer became a natural focus.
Wow. Because I think we tend to think about other cancers, not that they're not important, but when it comes to women, there's others that typically kind of rise to the top when we think about those cancers. This isn't one that's talked about a lot.
No.
We're changing that today.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad to have the opportunity. So give us a sense of when you go out and talk about this, when you invite people into the Vanden Heyden lab, which is fantastic, when you do all of that to sort of advance that, do you have a lot of support around you?
So yes, my team is highly supportive. Also the patients who have ovarian cancer inform our research. They tell us what worked for them, what doesn't work for them, and that helps us a little in guiding what kind of research we should be focusing on. My colleagues, I have some fantastic colleagues, and so that also helps, especially when you're in a situation where the funding situation is not so good and you're waiting for the next pot of money to come in or some next investment in your research. And so we support each other all the way through. And I think particularly within the cancer therapeutics program where I am, we have been partners in crime and solving cancer problems for 35 years.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And we mentioned off the top as well, you know, the $500 million campaign to build this new, innovative, incredible, world-class, you know, institution, which is really all about people.
Yes.
And this incredible opportunity to know that people in this community have already stepped up to the tune of $310 million. I've given my gift already.
Thank you.
And I've got to tell you, it was as much as, I'm going to get emotional. As much as it was about my health, it was about my daughter's health. So knowing that you're doing research to something so specific must give others hope as well.
I'd like to think so. It's certainly, I mean, I can say that when the time came for me to get cancer treatment, I had no hesitation at all. to come and have my treatment here in Ottawa, because I know firsthand how wonderful those people are, how effective, how state-of-the-art in terms of treatment is being offered in the cancer center at the hospital. So I can attest personally and professionally that this is a wonderful investment, and the directions we're going forward really are going to just allow us to do so much more.
Fantastic. When you think about your research, who do you think about? Is there a patient? Is there someone?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's special colleagues. There's special students I've had. There's a patient who gave a substantial donation to ovarian cancer research, and she did it with the instructions to do something high risk. Now, you have to understand that getting funding for research can be quite challenging, and no one really likes to fund risky research because there's a high risk it's not going to be successful. But this woman wanted specifically high-risk research. We had lots of ideas, and she just said, here, follow up those ideas. She gave us the means to act on those ideas. And that's where the fibrosis and metformin story started. It was with a donation that she gave to allow us to act on good ideas that were just dreams at that point in time. So yeah, those kinds of donations are gold to a scientist.
Because it's the families of tomorrow. I mean, I think about anyone that's participated in a clinical trial and you know, willing to sort of talk with researchers and fill that puzzle, right? Put that extra piece in there. It really is going to be so impactful for the people of tomorrow. We've got so much more to talk about, and so we're going to keep you. That's okay, right?
Okay.
We're going to keep you.
Yes.
But before we go, just give us a sense of when you walk into the Ottawa Hospital and you know that you've been given this incredible opportunity, your lab, your staff, what does that feel like on an everyday basis?
Gratifying. Yeah. A little bit of pride. A lot humility when I still see patients sitting on that first floor and we're not done yet. So we still have a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do, and a lot of things still to talk about. So we're going to keep Barbara here. Thank you so much for your time today. We're going to keep our conversation going today with Dr. Vander Heiden, and we're excited about that. Barbara's going to stay with us, and we're going to meet a patient of the Ottawa Hospital soon as well. You'll want to stay with us here for an hour to give. Warning, though, we're going to inspire you. Stay with us, everyone. And we're back on An Hour to Give. I'm Sam Laprade. Today's all about the Ottawa Hospital. The Ottawa Hospital Foundation is undertaking a $500 million campaign to really create an incredible campus that's going to take us into the next generation. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to raise this kind of money to change healthcare in this city, and it's very, very exciting. I'd like you to visit creatingtomorrow.ca. You're going to get all the details there. And here's what I love about this campaign is every single person in this city can contribute. So whether that's a $25 gift or those larger gifts that we've seen as well come in, every single person can play a role. And playing a big, big role in the Ottawa Hospital, of course, is Dr. Barbara Vander Heiden. It's so wonderful to have you here.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
It's wonderful. And we were talking about the wonderful research you're doing in terms of ovarian cancer. When you go to a cocktail party, do you tell people this is the kind of work you're doing? Because I would think that this would be quite rare.
So women are very interested in women's health research. So I can go to a cocktail party and I can spend hours talking about what I do, and that's exciting for them. Quite often it's new to them. As you say, not everyone understands or even discusses ovarian cancer. It's one of those below-the-waist cancers that historically haven't been discussed. So they're usually happy to be near somebody who has some information that is willing to share that. So yeah, cocktail party conversations is not the best sort of topic, but you bring out the better stories, the things that give them hope. So yeah.
Well, I'm honored to have this opportunity to talk to you, and I don't even have to bump into you at a cocktail party. It's wonderful to have this opportunity. When you see new faces come into your lab, and you know that new scientist, that somebody that's just raring to make their mark, does that keep you going? Does that keep you inspired every day?
Completely, completely. I think doing this for so long, at some point you think, oh, if I haven't got it now, when am I going to get it? But we've been making progress all the way. New student comes in. I have a new one starting this summer who's doing the MD PhD program. So she starts the PhD program starting this summer. Absolutely brilliant young lady, and I can't wait to have her on board because, you know, even just putting the team together and fleshing out ideas of, okay, we know this is a problem. What are other ways we can try to address it? And all those different perspectives make a huge difference. So we need to have a diverse team, and we need to have patient input because they're the ones who tell us, no, we will never go for that. There's no point in you even doing that. This is what we want you to focus on. So between the students and the patients, I think we have a lot of energy and a lot of, it keeps me motivated to keep that program going at a very high level for as long as I can.
Absolutely. And I would think over the course of your incredible journey with the Ottawa Hospital, we're so glad you're here, by the way, I would think that you've seen a lot of changes. What is kind of the most remarkable change you've seen?
Size. We are, the research component is much larger than the 4 scientists who started 35 years ago. We now have over 100 people, 12 scientists, and a lot more clinicians, scientists as well. There was always the clinicians and the scientists in the early days, and over the past few decades, there's now the merge of the individuals who are clinically trained but want to do research. Our director, Rebecca Auer, is exactly that type of person. So she has a foot in both camps, which really makes it easier for any discoveries we make in the lab to be transitioned into clinical care as quickly as possible.
And I love this because it's not just staying in the lab.
No.
It's coming to the bedside. And you know, and I've had the opportunity to spend some time with Rebecca as well, and I always walk away completely inspired as I am with you today. Is there something about women doing this research? Is there something, I have to ask, right? Is it different?
I would have to say yes.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know because I don't want to have any black and white statements. I think women tend to be collegial and want to work as a team. Not all men behave that way. Now that's stereotyping because there are lots of great colleagues I have that are my strongest collaborators. So but we think about science differently. We certainly think about women's health issues differently. We have to. So I think there are advantages to have both men and women doing research on all kinds of cancers.
Now, I'm just going to put my hand up. It takes me a lot typically to go, I think there's something wrong. I think I need to call my doctor because everything else seems more important. So I'm assuming that in your research, you are aware of some of the things that maybe you could bring a light today that would say, you should maybe go see your doctor. This may be a sign of ovarian cancer.
Yeah. So any symptoms sort of below the waist. The number one symptom that women report when they have ovarian cancer but don't know it yet is, I can't get my pants done up anymore. And so it's assumed that that's part of menopause. Weight gain is part of menopause. But lower back pain, changes in urinary or bowel habits, bloating, which is the reason you can't get the pants done up. So there are a few symptoms of ovarian cancer that are so subtle that women will often dismiss them as not being, they're just, okay, we're going through some menopausal changes that we just have to come to grips with and deal with. But if those changes persist, and the rule of thumb is 2 to 3 weeks and nothing has changed, if you still can't get your pants done up, then have it checked. Go to your physician, if you have one, your family doctor, and present those symptoms and persist because the symptoms are so subtle, it's easy to dismiss both by the physician and by the patient, but persist and having some preliminary investigations done to try to eliminate ovarian cancer. Those symptoms are also common with a lot of gastrointestinal disorders. That's the other reason it can be misdiagnosed or delayed in diagnosis. So those subtle symptoms are all we've got, and they're incredibly important for women who have them to not ignore them. them.
And you talked about people, you know, women in sort of their mid-60s,
Yep.
but certainly I know women that have been earlier, unfortunately diagnosed earlier. Does that kind of play into the, oh, it's something else?
So it can happen for women in their teens, so it's not something we can ignore. Sure, it's predominant in women after menopause, but it can happen earlier, and quite often when it's earlier, it can be more aggressive. So we don't want to ignore the symptoms at any stage, and yes, it might be a reason. I don't think any young person actually thinks about diseases that they consider of the aged, you know,
right.
the heart and stroke, the heart attacks and the stroke or cancers, like they figure that's something down the line. I think every young person feels that they are immune to any of those things until they're much older. Yeah,
so true. And all of the you know, opportunities that we've had, obviously through the pandemic, to sort of think about healthcare. I think the focus on research, people really understanding how important research is to kind of get us to the next step. Yep. Where do you see us in 5 years with ovarian cancer, for instance?
So my holy grail would be that metformin or some drug like it turns out to be a valid treatment for women at higher risk for ovarian cancer. Something that they can take to reduce the risk that they will get ovarian cancer during their years when they're trying to have children. And then, because quite often now women at higher risk because of BRCA1 or 2 mutations will have their ovaries removed much later on when their childbearing years are done as a means of protecting their or reducing their risk. But the risk is still there until those ovaries and fallopian tubes come out. So wouldn't it be nice if we had something to say, you don't have to worry quite so much. We have something that you can take while you're having your children and until the time you have your reproductive tissues removed.
Yeah, really interesting. And I would think as you go through to be a scientist and you think about all the great discoveries you want to make, you know, the whole philanthropy side of it, where you realize you're really relying on a community to support your research. You know, you spoke earlier about a very generous gift you were given. It allowed you to do some high-risk research. But those everyday gifts into research must also kind of keep you going, and that big dream you have for 5 years from now, you can see it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, even like the donations you said, that, you know, $25, they add up, and they make a big difference in what we're able to do. You know, we're working on a new immunotherapy for ovarian cancer. The existing ones don't work. They simply do not work on ovarian cancer, and we couldn't figure out why. We worked on it for a long time, and now we know why. And so now we have a treatment that we think is going to work, an immunotherapy that might be effective for ovarian cancer. So all those donations add up to allow us to move those new treatments to the end goal as well.
Wow. And what would you want people that are residing in this area and quite honestly all across Eastern Ontario to know about the Ottawa Hospital? Kind of that insider's a perspective on what's going on in terms of the excitement of the new campus, but at the same time, just the everyday work that's being done.
Right. We are so lucky to have a hospital of that caliber in this city. It has not only a local reputation for high quality care, it has a national reputation for its care, but also its research, and an international reputation for both. So I think we are very lucky, and we kind of see ourselves as a small, younger sister to Toronto, but we stand on their shoulders when it comes to the research that we do and the caliber of care that we have. So I think I'm very excited and very grateful to have the opportunity to work in Ottawa at the Ottawa Hospital, and I think everyone else in the community should be aware that they are very lucky to have this kind of quality here in our community.
Because it attracts talent like yourself, but it attracts, you know, a Barbara Vanderheiden 20 years from now, right? I mean, the work that you're doing will just influence, and then this new beautiful campus and, you know, the community coming together. To think in this city that $310 million has already been raised, and I know how hard they're working. And I know that donors have given, like I said, $25. I've given a gift. I gave it over a period of time. So for everybody listening, I think it's all of our And I'm going to use the word responsibility, because I think healthcare, we have to take responsibility for healthcare, and to have talent like you and your colleagues, and to have this incredible, new campus is going to be exciting.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I agreed.
Yeah, and walk me through, like, when you think about sort of that opportunity, to be in there in a couple of years from now. do you picture yourself walking in for the first time?
Yeah. So I picture, because I'm getting up there, I picture not only me, but one of my PhD students, one of my best PhD students, has done exactly what you just said. Couldn't wait to come back to work in this environment. Oh. He just started this month as a new investigator, and so excited to have him on board, because there's lots of opportunity for collaboration, and I can embed within him the aspirations that I have before I retire, and he can continue the work on ovarian cancer specifically. So I'm very excited to have. So there is that continuum. The programs, the research, the activities that are most promising will continue and have even greater opportunity for growth in the new hospital.
Amazing. So you did it. I warned people you'd inspire us, and you did it. Dr. Barbara Vanden Heyden, thank you so much for all the great work you're doing and for joining us here on An Hour to Give.
It's been my pleasure.
It's a real pleasure. Today we're focused on the Ottawa Hospital, the Ottawa Hospital Foundation, the great campaign, creatingtomorrow.ca. Go there. You will be inspired. Stay with us. We're going to meet Patrick Morris on An Hour to Give. And we're back on An Hour to Give. I'm Sam Laprade. Our next guest, you may already know him actually, Patrick Morris, is all about real estate. We're going to talk about so much more today. Welcome, Patrick. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
It's wonderful to have you here.
Yeah.
We do think about Patrick Morris, and we think about real estate. Tell us a little bit about what you've contributed to this community.
I think that the main thing is just to give as much as you can, not just to the community, but also to something that's as important as the Ottawa Hospital.
For sure.
And so that's been our focus for decades, to help with the community. And recently, with my cancer survivorship, I've become involved with helping out the Toronto Hospital as much as I personally can. And that's through maybe donations and volunteer time, and making speeches at some of the different golf tournaments to help raise some money for the TOH.
Absolutely. Yeah. And let me just ask you this. When I see a sign and it says sold by Patrick Morris, you've obviously got a long history of real estate in this community, so a lot of people do know you. How has that kind of helped you in your cancer journey, that you are quite well known in the city, and have you felt supported?
You know what, it's good that you asked that. I was so impressed by how many people reached out to me. I might get emotional about this, but I just could not believe the number of people who sent me an email, sent me a text, dropped a card off in my mailbox at home, just called me, told other people to give me a shout just because they were busy traveling somewhere. And their support was unbelievable. So it's just not from clients, but lots of old friends that maybe I'd met 40 years ago were in touch with me, and it was very touching, the messages I got and emails. And, it was incredible.
That's wonderful. So take me back. You're a busy real estate agent. You're busy in the community doing lots of different things. When do you get diagnosed with cancer?
Well, it all started back in October 2022 when I noticed a small lump in my right armpit. The doctors called it an axilla, not an armpit. It's a nice medical term.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that grew slightly for about 2.5, almost 3 months, and then in early January, I woke up one morning and it was the size of a golf ball. Then it grew within a week to the size of a small lemon, and I called my doctor's office right away, and that was the same time in 2022, so it's 2021 when I first received that small growth in my armpit, but it was January 2022 when we had all these restrictions because of COVID. I couldn't get to see my doctor at all in person. I could have gone to the emergency department, but because the pain was so bad, it never even crossed my mind. And if I had somebody at home reminding me to do some things, it would have been helpful. But I had nobody at home at the time. And so I did get to see her within 2 weeks. She looked at it, she said, "Did you strain something?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, you know what, you're going to go for an ultrasound. I'll get you in there as soon as possible." I got an appointment for the next morning, got the results. She saw me that afternoon. She said, "You better go to the emergency at the Civic right away. And I think it could be cancer. It may be something else totally benign," but she said, "You should go." So I went to the Civic Hospital at the emergency, and I met the emergency doctor there. They took me in right away, did the CT, did x-rays, took blood work, and came back about an hour or so later, which was very quick. And the female doctor said, "You know, I think you have cancer. I don't know what kind it is. You'll have to get a biopsy." But she said, "That's what we think you have," and that's what the radiologist and her really believed to be the case. So then that's how everything started. So I had a biopsy appointment to go to the following week, and from there it was just lots of treatments.
Yeah.
After that.
And you hear those words, "You have cancer," and then you realize that you're living in Ottawa with a world-class hospital, world-class research. Does it give you comfort to know that you were in this city?
It gave me such tremendous comfort. I knew I would be well taken care of, and I knew a couple of the hematologists there and also the oncologists, but I didn't know anybody else. And when I went for my first biopsy, Dr. Werrier was there. He did the full biopsy. He was fantastic. He had 2 other nurses and 1 other visiting doctor in for the biopsy also. But from that moment on, I knew that the care would be tremendous, and they never let me down. All through the treatment, they followed up with me. They would call me at home to make sure I was okay. "Is there anything else we need to do for you, Mr. Morris?" It was just phenomenal. So being in Ottawa, having the cancer center right here was a big plus for me. Because if I had to travel, at that time, if I had to travel any great distance, I may not be sitting here today.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how serious it was.
Honestly, that just took my breath away.
Yeah, it was what they call stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And that just meant it was a very aggressive cancer. And I remember Dr. Aw, the other hematologist that was recommended to me at the cancer center, he and I had such wonderful meetings. And he told me, he said, "You've got a very aggressive cancer," and he said, "We have to get you on steroids right away and start chemo next Monday." So it was a very rapid deployment of all of the resources that they could muster up for me in such a short period of time. And it was phenomenal. And so we need to continue that. We need to have the researchers in place here in Ottawa to continue the hard work that they've been doing. If the CAR T-cell therapy was not discovered, I would not be anywhere today. But because the researchers are here in Ottawa, and we need to expand that to even bring more discoveries so that the CAR T-cell therapy could maybe be utilized with many other types of cancers. Because the CAR T-cell therapy, in my case, was my last resort. I did not have a plan B. They did not have a plan B. They said, "If this does not work, well, we'll just make the rest of your life as comfortable as we can for you." But I remember one nurse practitioner saying to me at the time, she said, "Your life, though, Patrick, will only," Mr. Morris, "will only be described in the number of months, not in the number of years that you have left." So she said, "You have to prepare yourself." And so that was very jolting news, I guess, is the best way to describe it. And it's just like when you have a cancer diagnosis, you're never prepared for something like that. And all the cancer people who have received that diagnosis out there and the survivors all know that it's a very difficult situation to be in, because what do you do? And I found the biggest thing was it makes you very humble. I remember saying that to one of my daughters who picked me up after my first chemo. treatment, and I got in the car and I said, you know what, cancer humbles you like you just can't understand unless you've gone through it. So that's where we are. Wow. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be anywhere.
I know. I'm so happy that you're here. And you know, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, you're sharing your story, and you've been very open about your story. You've shared it before, and I think that is incredible. By sharing your story, is it a way of thanking the Ottawa Hospital and giving some kudos to all those people that worked so hard to make sure you are here today?
Absolutely. I want to give back as much as I can, and I remember saying to Karen Lawrence at the Ottawa Hospital Foundation, I said, I wish I had millions, tens of millions to give, but I'm not in that league at all. But I'll give as much as I can afford, and as much as what will help a little bit. And I remember talking to one of the doctors. I said, if I can, just my contribution can help save one life, or just give one life a little bit extra time, that's worth so much to that particular person. And so, what is giving? I said to myself at the time, giving is like adding value to somebody else's life. And it could be as simple as, you know, a $10 donation or a $1,000 donation or even a $100 donation. But if we get enough of those donations, they really add up. Like we're up to, I think, in the foundation now up to $310 million, I believe. Yes. So that's phenomenal out of the $500 million that we're hoping to raise. So I'm very pleased with that. So that's my little contribution.
Yeah, it's a big one, by the way. It's a big contribution, the fact that you're joining me today and sharing your story, because I think it does inspire, and I think it's a really good reminder. And you know, we speak about this a lot, is that each and every one of us has a part to play here.
Yes.
And I think it's important that each and every one of us sort of take that into our own hands and say, you know, whether it's you know, a way to participate in a monthly donation, or if it's a one-time gift, whatever it is, it's a wonderful way to contribute and also show the Ottawa Hospital and the Ottawa Hospital Foundation that we're backing them and backing the talent that's here, world-class talent. I still, every time I say it, I get so excited that, you know, we're really a community of about 1 million people, over 1 million people, but the fact that we have this, you know, we're drive down Carling Avenue, I never take it for granted anymore. It's not a building to me anymore. Do you feel that way?
I feel the same way. Yeah. And I remember when Westboro, where we are right here at the studio, was such a small little village with lots of for-lease signs and all the store windows. And, you know, look where it is today. And so we've come from a very small community, not just here, but throughout the whole city, from a very, very small village atmosphere to something that's really out of this world.
It is.
And so the same thing applies to the Ottawa Hospital. I always remember, because I wasn't around, but I remember reading about the Ottawa Kiwanis Club back almost 100 years ago, and they started the current Civic Hospital. And that was started by some business people in Ottawa and some doctors and many politicians and also the Kiwanis Club to get the Civic Hospital built. So here we are, 100 years later roughly, and we're in the stage to get the new hospital built, you know, in the next few years, and then embark on a new future. You know, creating tomorrow is what it's all about. Because today is today, but we need tomorrow too. So we have to plan for that.
Beautifully said. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh, well, that's good.
Patrick Morris is joining us. He's going to join us and stay with us. So I want you to stay with us. We're going to learn more about the Ottawa Hospital, the Ottawa Hospital Foundation, and of course, Mr. Morris himself. Stay with us on An Hour to Give. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We're talking all about the Ottawa Hospital Foundation and the Ottawa Hospital today. CreatingTomorrow.ca is where we're going to send you to also be inspired. But the inspiration is not over because Patrick Morris is here again. I know you know Patrick from real estate, but he's joining me today and talking about his cancer journey. So, because my father was diagnosed with cancer, so I know what it's like to be the daughter that's told that news. Talk to me a little bit about your family and what that journey's been like.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to hear about your dad, but when I told my kids, it was really hard on me. I didn't think I'd get so emotional about it. I remember when I was diagnosed with that, coming home from the Civic Hospital Emergency Department, and I got home and I sat in my favorite chair in the family room until 4 in the morning, and I said the first people I have to call are my 3 daughters, and then I'll call my sisters and brothers. But my daughters really stepped up. I have 2 of them here in Ottawa and 1 in Florida who lives near Delray Beach. And the 2 in Ottawa here really helped out during all the chemo treatments because I could not drive. I couldn't drive myself there and drive myself home. And I was so weak from all of the treatments. But they were what I call my angels on earth. And I'm firmly believed also that there's many angels that are always swirling above us, and I'm sure you've heard that from other people. But I'm a big believer in that, and all you have to do is ask them for help, and they're there, which is wonderful. So they really pitched in, and my wife is still in a long-term care facility because of her dementia. Physically, she's doing well, but mentally, she's declining, unfortunately, and so we have that, and my kids go and visit her as often as they can. I can go and visit whenever there's not an outbreak, and she's in a very good place, so I'm very happy there, and I'm very satisfied with how they've been taking care of her.
And when you tell your daughters and you say, you know, I've been diagnosed, but I'm getting care at the Ottawa Hospital. I asked you if it was comforting to you earlier. Was that comforting to your daughters?
They were so happy that I didn't have to go elsewhere, like to Toronto or down to the U.S. I said, you know what? And I did call one of the cancer centers in the United States, and they said, and I forget the name of the doctor I spoke to, he said, you know what? Ottawa Cancer Center is one of the best in the world. He said, you'll be so well taken care of. He said, if you came down here, it'll be at least $250,000 to $500,000. He said, there you have all the resources there. It doesn't cost you a thing because of your medical program with the provincial government. So he said, if I were you, I wouldn't spend a penny to come down here. He said, you'll get just as good, if not better treatment. And I couldn't ask for a better endorsement than that.
100%.
Yeah, I was
so
very
you
impressed.
So you get this incredible care. You're with us today, which we're celebrating, and you make that donation to the Ottawa Hospital. How was that for you to think about the care you were given, and once another nod, I guess, to the wonderful care?
Well, it was because just watching the doctors, how concerned they were in treating me every day, and the nurses and the PSWs who would come in when I was there as an inpatient at the cancer center for that CAR T-cell therapy program. Just the compassion that they have and the dedication that they have was just mind-boggling. I thought I was very dedicated with my clients, and I was, but it's nowhere near life-threatening. You know, it's a transaction, but they're trying to save my life. Every doctor felt that way. Every nurse, every PSW, even the floor cleaner and the bathroom cleaner, every admin, every nurse practitioner, every social worker that I met, they all wanted me to have a future, and you could tell it in their eyes. You could tell it in their mannerisms. I was very impressed with that from day one.
That is,
and the doctors were phenomenal.
That's amazing. I mean, because you do worry, right? I mean, I think everybody worries. What kind of care am I going to get? Now, I don't worry about the Ottawa Hospital because I've gone through it with my father. I've gone through it with my mom. I know that it's going to be world-class care. But I think in the back of your mind, it's almost. I worry more about my parents than I would if it was me, if that makes any sense. So I can imagine your daughters as well.
Oh, I'm
or
sure.
Who's going to take care of my dad? Yeah.
No, that's true. And I remember my daughter in Florida saying, Dad, I would love to come up and help like Lindsay and Sarah, my other daughters. And she said, I just can't, because she's got a very good job in Florida, and she just couldn't even get the time to come up. But she did come up for a week in 2022 and also for a week last year. So it was great.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And do you also feel that, you know, that you want to tell, I mean, you're doing this today with me, which I'm so grateful about, but Patrick, do you also feel like you needed to almost tell your friends and your colleagues that, hey, do you actually know what's happening at the Ottawa Hospital? Do you know how lucky we are?
I've been the biggest promoter of that.
Okay, great.
I was a volunteer table captain at the for the President's Breakfast there last September, I believe it was. And I called so many of my past clients and friends that I know could easily afford to give. Now, I was successful with a few of them, but not with everyone, and I can understand that. A lot of them say, Pat, this is what I give every year. And I said, well, that's fantastic. I'm so happy. So they give in their own way to the Cancer Centre because everybody's been touched by it. I don't know of anybody who hasn't been touched. So whenever I do speak to somebody about my journey and what I went through and how miraculous it was, they say, you know what, it's true, it's really a miracle. Even Dr. Ah, my main hematologist, said, yes, it was a miracle. And so did his nurse, Amanda Strandberg, mention that to me, and so did the nurse practitioner, Linda Hamelin, mention the same thing. She said, Mr. Morris, it was a real miracle.
And the CAR-T therapy and knowing what's happening in terms of, it's so exciting, right?
It is exciting. I'll tell you what's really exciting about it. It was originally developed by some researchers here, refined in the United States. So, and I'll be very simple and as quick as I can about it. What the CAR-T cell therapy does is they remove your blood from your body, re-engineer it. They take all the T cells, T-C cells, and the white blood cells, and send them down to a lab in the United States to transform them into cancer-fighting cells. They freeze those cells for 3 weeks. They come back to the hospital, because I have to be in the hospital for all of this, and they just bring this little robot-looking thing. It looks like R2-D2 from Star Wars, and they lift the hood up, and all this dry ice smoke comes up. And anyway, they put it into my body, and that was the start of the CAR-T cell therapy. But Dr. Natasha Nikri here in Ottawa wants to have a made-in-Canada solution so that people don't have to wait. If I had to wait 8 weeks to get that treatment, I wouldn't be here. That's how close I was. So it's
okay.
I'm so thankful to be here, and I'm so thankful for the researchers out there that we have, and I'm so thankful they're here in Ottawa, and I'm grateful to all of the doctors and to those passionate researchers who work every day to come up with new discoveries so that you and I and everyone else can enjoy the future and make new memories, make new stories. That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. When I heard that you were going to be my guest, do you know how excited I was?
Yeah.
Because I know how committed you are to this community. And I knew that if anyone was going to champion the Ottawa Hospital, it was going to be Patrick Morris.
Well, thank you. It's very kind of you to say that. But I was excited to come in here today, too, and tell my story, and at least a little bit of my story. But, you know, when you give to an organization like the Ottawa Hospital and its foundation, it's not just giving, you know, $5 or $100 or $1,000 or $500. It's adding value to somebody's future life. So it could be, you know, your parents that you have to help save their life by giving. It could be your sister, your brother, your child, your golfing buddy, your hockey buddy, your book club buddy. It could be anybody that's impacted. So that's why I'm doing this. It touches all of us, and we have to continue to do that. And if anybody can support our community, I really want to congratulate them because they're looking down the road. And Creating Tomorrow is almost here, and we have to keep working so that it will become a reality.
Do you think about walking in that Ottawa Hospital for the very first time, the brand new campus? I do.
Oh, yeah.
I've
can
given
visualize
a gift,
it, yes.
and I get excited.
I get excited a lot. I've
yeah.
gone on their website. It's a tremendous website, and there's so many different aspects to it now that you can easily walk through. It is exciting, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And we only have a couple of minutes left, but you know, all of the people that have given to this campaign, $310 million, obviously the goal being $500 million, creatingtomorrow.ca is where we want to send people today. But what would you say to those people that you don't know that have given? You know, you've got a lot of people that have given in your circle, but someone's listening, watching us right now. What would you convey to them to give your thanks to them?
Well, thank you for inviting me here and being able to ask people and thank them to give money to the Ottawa Hospital. But I guess my message is, you might think just, oh, it's another charity looking or another foundation looking for money. It's not that. You're talking about people's lives. It's a patient who is counting on the Ottawa Hospital to come up with new discoveries, and once the new discoveries have been initiated, then they can treat their patients the way they should be treated to help save a life. And I go back to the golfing buddy and the hockey buddy and the book club member person that you really enjoy being with, and your neighbor and your friends and your family and your loved ones. All of those people will be touched one day or another somehow. So in the back of everyone's mind, I want them to remember, you know what? It's not just about giving the money, it's adding value. So if we can add value to not just one little organization, but adding value to help everybody down the road, that's wonderful.
Yeah, 100%. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I've really enjoyed my time with you today.
Thank you for having me.
And I know that, you know, when I think about this community, there's so many people like you that have had their lives touched, and they want to give back. They want to show that world-class team that we're backing them for this brand new campus, creatingtomorrow.ca. I'm going to go there as soon as we finish today. I want to go check out the website and see the updates there. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Patrick Morris joining us to share his story with the Ottawa Hospital, and of course the Ottawa Hospital Foundation and their team, and all of you, all those wonderful donors, are making sure that this world-class campus is going to be there to serve people not only in years to come, but for generations to come. It is a once-in-a-lifetime generation opportunity for all of us to dig a little bit deeper and to help the Ottawa Hospital Foundation. I'm Sam Laprade, and this is an hour to give. Remember, I'm sending you to creatingtomorrow.ca. I know you'll be inspired. Thanks, everyone.